Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's the first of the month. So grab your checks and come run. All right. If both LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard both are leaving the city of La La Land, we'll give you their new destinations coming up. And we'll have a preview of the World Cup soccer World Cup. The men's FIFA World Cup soccer game between Bosnia and the United States. And we have a special guest joining us for the second half of the show for our explosive, spectacular edition. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. The fireworks start now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one, a drive in the left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! Robert Jr. his fourth of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide, up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Binnington, no chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Getting what a pass. Buzelis with the fake on the drive.
They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb Groves, middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears.
Welcome to a special holiday edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter X and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter X, on the IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you can, please hype the video if you're watching us live here on YouTube after you like the video so we can get this program out to as many people as possible to become your number one destination for Chicago and national sports talk. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2 hours as we call a Sports Talk Radio show. You got to hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers, even on this special long holiday weekend, to give you dumbos to build and boot.
Totals.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE, live entertainment game. And checking us out live in living color right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:21 p.m. Central Standard Time. But as always, much love to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay, also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
We remind you with some of the best here on Second City Sports as the U.S. men, they're gearing up for their match later tonight against Bosnia in the round of 32, and also including some interesting surprises, and already been a couple of, I'll say one major upset and one kind of like a very thrilling matchups, as France take care of business. At Wimbledon, Serena, her return on the women's singles side was short-lived, but also to Yannick Sinner looks like he's doing just fine trying to defend his title. Also, to our girl Julia Swieca Gannon will be here with us at the top of the hour for the entire second half. She'll also talk about her White Sox, Bears, what's going on over home Northwestern, and even I'm sure she'll have her other sports topics that she always has her opinion. So we'll get to that at the top of the hour here. Also, NBA free agency, a lot of returns, a lot of opt-outs. Bulls fans are already losing their minds for nothing. We'll get to that soon at the bottom. But first, time to talk.
Oh, really?
Just a little bit, but yeah, talking some baseball first. As the White Sox will try to go for the sweep against Baltimore, they're up 1-0 right now, thanks to Sam Antiochi's leadoff home run to start the game. This game started at about an hour ago, over an hour ago. They've already won the first two, doing what we were supposed to against Baltimore. I know that's been a house of horrors over there. They won their first game over there in Baltimore in 2 years almost. So they did win the series. They do get the sweep. They're up 2 against Cleveland. I mean, look, they've been probably one of the surprise teams. They'll do what you're supposed to against a team that they're better than. So,
hey, as we said, the White Sox will be challenged during the month of June. They passed the test of going 2 games, one game rather above 500 for the month, and then 12-11 without Munetaka Murakami. As I said before on the show before, I'll say it again. This is the team that was supposed to play, supposed to look like, at least on paper, by the way. Munetaka Murakami was not originally part of Chicago's plans, but you've seen everybody step up with the White Sox. Kyle Till, who went 1 for 4 last night. Well, Venable, the manager, put some man leadoff. Did a nice job. Andrew Benintendi, as we say, he was going to split time between DH and the outfield this year. What does he do? He comes up with a big night last night with a big RBI single to start off the game last night. 3 for 4 overall. Miguel Vargas is batting around 250, leads American League third baseman in almost in all offensive categories. He has a resume to start in the All-Star game. I don't think that's going to happen, but he should be elected as an All-Star. Sam Antonacci, as you mentioned, what he did earlier today. He's been that spark plug at leadoff all year long. Braden Montgomery, he's taking a little step back a little bit, but he's still very important. Jacob Gonzalez had a big night last night as well. The rookie first baseman is filling in for Murakami. As we said all the year long, it's not just about one guy that's going to carry this team. It's going to have to be a collective effort. And right now we're seeing it offensively rather from the White Sox. Let's not forget about Costa Montgomery as well. What a moonshot that he sent out of Camden Yards last night.
yeah, I think they're still trying to find that ball. But like I said earlier, I think, look, this is sort of like I don't want to say it's a statement series, but look, they need this win. Like I said, that Baltimore's been a house of horrors for the White Sox in recent years. So look, they've been able to take care of business, do what you're supposed to. Eric Fetty took care of business last night. The offense backed them up. We'll see what happens here. They're up 1-0. They're hanging on to a 1-0 lead. Now the Cleveland series is really going to be interesting because I know that. Yeah, look, I know Cleveland's been kind of in free fall. They lost their first 2 against Texas. They're playing right now as we speak. They just started about like 10 minutes ago. So yeah, so Cleveland's going to be an interesting series. These 4 after tomorrow. Davis Martin will go up against Slade Ciccone. That's Thursday. On Friday, it'll be Anthony Kay. We'll see how he does against Gavin Williams. The Sox got the best of Gavin Williams the last time they played. Sean Burke against Parker Messick. Messick, same thing. The White Sox gave gave him a little the business on the last time they played. It's the 4th of July, and also to wrap up the series, Eric Fetty against Tanner Bibby. So we'll see how the Sox do in this series. Like I said, I mean, the White Sox, look, they should get all the credit in the world. They're only one of 4 or 5 teams that are above 500 right now in the AL. That says more about the AL, but that's a different conversation there. But it'll be interesting to see what they can do in this series against the Guardians coming up starting tomorrow.
Despite what happens later on today against Baltimore, the White Sox have a chance, like you said, to really put some sort of distance between themselves and the Guardians. You mentioned they made a statement here in Chicago last week, taking 2 out of 3. That third game got away from them a little bit, even though they almost came back and won in an extra innings. Davis Martin, who's finally got back on track, he starts off the series, as you mentioned, opening up with the Sox tomorrow. Sean Burke's been pitching very well. He'll go on Saturday. Anthony Kay, I'm looking at that start to him on Friday because, as I said on our last show a couple of days ago, he was terrible against Kansas City. He was one of the reasons why they lost. So Anthony Kay, he's been good up until his last couple of starts. He needs a big rebound performance on the mound right now. I'm looking at that game as perhaps being the swing game of this series, in my opinion. I think realistically, I think the Sox could come out of there with a split in those 4 games. But if somehow, some way they could take 3 out of 4, they'll definitely send a message to the Guardians and the rest of the AL Central.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Steve Brown with you. We're going to switch gears here. Talk a little Cubs. The Cubs, well, last night's game was interesting. Matthew Boyd, had a solid not a good showing. Gave up 3 earned runs in 8 hits. Not his best showing. Javier Assad, unfortunately, the bad Javier Assad showed up for the Cubs yesterday. Gave up 4 runs for all 4 of them earned. It was really thanks to the bullpen, and we haven't really said that much about them. Tyler Ferguson had a nice outing, got out of a bases loaded jam, as well as Ryan Rollison. They ended up being the same situation, unfortunately. But the bullpen took care of business against the Padres, and they were able to hang on 9-7. They go for the series in about an hour from now, so we'll see if they can. Look, the Cubs had one of the best records. They think the Cubs were like 17 and like 3 or 4 or something like that during the month of June, and also PCA. Look, he'll definitely get NL Player of the Month honors for June. He became one of only 3 players to have a month with 378 batting average, 375 plus, 775 plus slugging percentage, I should say. He had 83 total bases, 17 walks, 10 plus walks, 5 plus total bases. He had one on Monday. The others to do that, well, you got to go all the way back to 1920 and 1930, where Babe Ruth did and Lou Gehrig. So that's a hell of a list. PCA joins, and that's one of the reasons why the Cubs have been able to kind of slug it out and have this turnaround.
Yeah, with the weather turning now entering into the month of July, I know we've been suffering through this heat wave throughout most of the country, including here in Chicago. The Cubs took advantage of it during these 2 games so far, the first 2 games of this series against the Padres. Seiya Suzuki, I'm not a big fan of his in the field defensively, but offensively, that bat is starting to quietly come around. You saw him with that game winner off of closer Mason Miller on Monday, and of course last night. The Cubs got the win thanks to 5 home runs, 2 of them by Dansby Swanson, and looks like, as we said, looks like he started to come out of it. Michael Busch quietly, he's starting to come out of it as well. He belted a home run last night, and of course Matthew Boyd, it was his return to the mound last night after being injured for about a month and a half. 5 innings pitched. He gave up 8 hits, 3 earned runs, and 2 strikeouts. Obviously, it wasn't a dominating performance, but it was good enough to say, hey, okay, see, you can get his timing back, get his kickback, and so he did well enough to keep the Cubs ahead. Of course, like you said, the bullpen kind of let San Diego back in the ball game last night, especially with Gavin Sheets, the 3-run home run in the 8th inning. But the Cubs were able to hold them off offensively. As we said, they needed to turn around, but their bullpens was going to be the difference. Whatever healthy bodies are left to for the innings to give to Craig Counsell. So quietly. That bullpen is starting to turn it around a little bit, but the offense is going to have to keep it going until they get some healthy bodies back in that bullpen and in that starting rotation.
Pretty wild stat as far as Dansby is concerned. He's actually in the top 5 now with the home run he hit last night. He's in the top 5 in NL history in home runs as a shortstop. He joins Ernie Banks, not a bad list, Jimmy Rollins, Barry Larkin, and Troy Tulowitzki. Those are the only guys that he's behind. Trey Turner, of course, he's still active, but yeah, that's kind of crazy. And his slugging percentage goes up to, I think, like to 2 now. So go figure with that one. So yeah, I think the Cubs, will see what they do against the Padres. If they can, even if they don't sweep the Padres, I think, look, the fact that they've been able to slug this out, and also too with their pitching, that's really going to be the thing here that's going to keep them going, like you said. Now, real quick, with the St. Louis start coming up starting Friday, they do get the day off tomorrow. Let's see. David Peterson, who had a great first outing, we'll see if he can keep it up as he goes up against Andre Palente. No Mariano, who will start for the Cubs on Saturday, but they will be facing Kyle Leahy and also Shota, who was actually pretty good for the most part on Monday. We'll see how he does against Matthew Liberatore, and I'm looking forward to seeing the St. Louis. I know St. Louis has been like probably one of the other surprise teams. They've had a pretty good start this year, so let's see how they do against St. Louis. They did win their first game against Atlanta yesterday. So, yeah, St. Louis is going to be an interesting series, as it always is.
Yeah, and for the Cubs, as we said, you take care of your own business. Do not worry about anybody else in the division. You just keep winning series. You get on these nice long hot streaks, and you'll find your way back in the division race. I know they're currently 5.5 back of the Milwaukee Brewers, but just take care of your own business. Hopefully getting healthy guys back into your rotation, back into your lineup. I think you'll be okay. A big series against St. Louis this weekend. We mentioned about some of the young guys they had. Mason Wynn at shortstop. Jordan Walker is having a nice bounce back year. JJ Weatherholt as well. So St. Louis, even though they stumbled here a little bit in the last couple of weeks, they're playing with all the confidence in the world, no fear in them. And even though they took care of the Cubs to wrap up the month of May, they're coming into the north side with a whole lot of bravado, a whole lot of confidence, and they're not going to play afraid. They're not going to play down to the Cubs either. So the Cubs have to go out there and get it. St. Louis is not going to give it to them.
No, but here's the thing, though. They've actually had a rough month, though. They lost series to both the Royals, the Diamondbacks, and also the Marlins. We'll see how they do. They did win their first game against Atlanta, although Atlanta's had their struggles lately. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, that was a different month, so we'll see how this goes. But yeah, I think it's always going to be interesting to see. But I think the Cubs want to get a little get back from the last time they played. So we're going to take a really quick break. We'll talk some baseball on the national side, also NBA. Bulls, they're making some moves. They got a big signing, although Bulls fans are still a little bit miffed. We'll talk about that. Also, Kawhi is going back home to Toronto. LeBron maybe going back to Cleveland. We'll see. But yeah, we got all that and more coming next. LaKeena McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports. On Sports on Chicago, more Diamond talk as well as more as basketball talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Oops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Special holiday edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live and in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow Matt Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
As we continue the baseball talk, and we'll get to a lot of NBA free agency as well to close out our number one. If you have any questions or comments regarding those two subjects, you got to hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the opening screen for you.
All right, sticking with baseball here on the national side, real quick. Shohei Ohtani, look, I mean, what more can you say about Ohtani at this point? But he had another solid outing last night, and he is actually the first player in MLB history to hit 8+ home runs. He had 9, and is now 4-0. He had a 4-0 record in this last month. So, like I said, what more superlatives you can say about Shohei at this point? He got the win last night. The Dodgers have won 4 in a row and are pulling away in that National League West. And also, Dave Roberts, manager, he got his 1,000th career win as a manager. Yay!
Yay! Yeah, about one or two of you ignorant Dodger fans still want him fired, but we'll ignore you for the time being. But as you always say, LaKeena, on this show, you should get a trademark. The Dodgers are dodgering. Shohei Ohtani is getting back to is making him one of the best players in baseball. He's our generation's Babe Ruth. Not only he can hit the hell out of the ball, he can pitch well too. Remember, he didn't pitch a couple years ago because of Tommy John surgery, but it's taken him the last couple of years to get back on the mound. Look what he's doing right now. As you mentioned, he showed that dominance on the mound once again last night. I know he's working with the new catcher, Dalton Rushing, the rookie. I know that both of them had some issues here and there, a little bit, but hopefully Will Smith, their all-star catcher, will be back soon. But Ohtani is taking that dominance not only with his bat, but on the mound as well. Starting to put it all together.
Yeah, he's looking really good, I think. Keeping him healthy, I think, is going to be the most important thing. So he might miss some starts, especially, look, the Dodgers, as we're recording this, are 12 games up right now in the NL West. So, yeah, that might be something that happens there, but we'll see. But going into the Central, the Brewers, they've won the first 2 against Cincy. And as we were saying, look, you can't control what the Brewers do. If you're the Cubs, you can only do your own thing. So we'll see if the Brewers, just try to gain a little bit of ground as you can. But, don't look now in the National League East. The Phillies, look, I know they lost a tough one. They probably should have won that game on Monday against Pittsburgh. But again, I digress. But they did they did come back, right? But Christopher Sanchez had a solid outing, 9 strikeouts and 7 A's because the first starter, I should say, to reach 10 wins in the league as the Phillies shut out the Pirates, evening that series.
As I said a few weeks ago, I'll say it again. Everybody thinks that, it's Shohei Ohtani or it's Jacob Mizrachi. They're your runaway winners for the NL Cy Young. Said Christopher Sanchez. As you mentioned, you could argue that he's the best starting left-handed pitcher in the game right now. No, Chris Sale will have something to say about that from the Braves, but Christopher Sanchez is at the top right now. He's my leader in the clubhouse for National League Cy Young Award win. As you mentioned, what the historic numbers say he has been putting up this year for the Philadelphia Phillies. As we said about the Phillies, after they switched managers to Don Mattingly, the offense picked up. They started pitching, starting to get healthy. Aaron Nola still has to come around a little bit, along with Painter, but You still have Zach Wheeler. You still have Suarez. So the Phillies is they put it all together. We're not going to mention the names on offense. You know the names by now. But as I said a couple of days ago as well, the longer that the Atlanta Braves go without Ronald Acuna Jr., it's a realistic possibility that the Phillies can overtake the Braves in the NL East. But we still have a long ways to go before that. But Philadelphia is a real strong threat right now, at least for that first wild card spot at best.
Yeah, they really look good. Maybe need to bump up that middle relief a little bit. That's probably like their one Achilles heel. But like I said, we'll see what happens with that. Now, staying at the division, of course, Atlanta. Yeah, I mean they're having their own issues. Like I said, Acuna needs to get back ASAP. But let's talk about the Marlins. I mean, look, the Marlins finished June 20-6. That's actually the best record after the Cubs, they actually have a better record than the Cubs did back, for the month of June. This is only the second time in their franchise history that they won 20 plus games in a month. And look, granted, a lot of those games were against the Rockies and the Giants, and the D-bats. But again, look, you can't really apologize for you playing your schedule. I don't know if they could keep up. I'm talking about the Marlins. Look, I know Owen Casey. I know some people have said that maybe he could be on the move, during the trade deadline for the Marlins. We'll see. But like I said, it's impressive still nonetheless.
Yeah, you mentioned Owen Casey, the former Chicago Cub prospect. He's doing his thing with the bat. Also, Kevin Stowers as well. And don't forget about Sandy Alcantara,
Yes.
your ace pitcher for the Marlins as well. I know he hasn't been talked about a lot. He's been talked about the last few years because people want him traded. But like you said, the Marlins are taking advantage of a soft schedule. I know they had a surprise a couple years ago when they finished up the year with 79 wins. Could this be the case again? Probably, but like you said, they're on a hot streak right now. The key for them is to be consistent, to keep it going for another long stretch.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens now. As far as going to the AL side real quick, the East, the Rays have won 6 in a row. They won their opener against the Royals, while the Yankees, they've lost 6 in a row. Losing the first 2 against Detroit at home, coupled up with losing 4 to the Red Sox. So should Yankees fans be starting to worry?
I think a question is, should Yankee fans be worried? Of course they should. Referring to last night's game, Cam Schlittler did not look good on the mound last night. I know he's been the Yankees' best pitcher as of late. I know Garrett Cole's back. Carlos Rodon is still there, but Cam Schlittler got lit up last night, courtesy of Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, and the others for that Detroit Tigers lineup. On the flip side for the Tigers, Tariq Skubal looked well again last night, very dominant against the Yankees lineup, which is very bad right now because of via injuries. Of course, you have Trent Grisham that's out. Of course, Aaron Judge is out. Giancarlo Stanley is not there yet. So, yeah, the Yankees are going through it right now because of injuries. Hopefully they get those guys healthy, especially after the All-Star break. But, yeah, you should be worried a little bit if you're a Yankees fan. That offense is not there, and their pitch is starting to suffer too.
Yeah, it really has. Now, Cleveland going to the Central. I know we'll talk about Texas in a second here, but yeah, Cleveland. Look, I mean, they lost the first 2 against Texas. Like I said, they might be getting called looking ahead to the White Sox series, maybe, but like I said, I think hopefully if you're a Guardians fan, Jose Ramirez will be back soon, because you're going to need a for this stretch.
Yeah, I know they have some other young players that are trying to carry the load right now. I mentioned them on our last episode on Monday, but pitching, especially their starting pitching and the bullpens, was keeping them afloat right now. And like you said, Cleveland needs to add another batter too, assuming that Jose Ramirez will be back at some time after the All-Star break. But if Cleveland's front office, if they don't make a move you got a little bit over a month before the trade deadline. If they don't make a move for a bat, perhaps another arm at the trade deadline, this White Sox division is theirs for the taking. So we still have a long way to go, and I think Cleveland will remain in this thing. But like you said, the offense definitely needs a boost. I know you have Chase DeLauder there. You still have Stephen Kwan. You still have Kyle Mazzaro. But they need a big thumper in that lineup. If they don't get one by the trade deadline, it's really going to be tough.
Minnesota is going to be, like I said, Minnesota, I don't know if they're going to be for real or not, but I know they split their first 2 games against Houston. Who knows? But yeah, we'll see what happens there. Now, speaking of Houston, look, I mean, Texas, I know they've won 6 in a row, but like I said, I don't know if this team is for real or not. You thought this was going to happen last year. They fell off near the end. Seattle, I mean, they've looked good the last couple of days, taking the first 2 against Los Angeles, taking care of business against the Angels. So yeah, again, we'll see, but yeah, that AL West is still up for grabs.
Yeah, I know that it looks like we're starting to see some separation in that division. I'm not counting the Angels; they stink. The Oakland Athletics, as we call them on this show, they've lost the series, the first 2 games to the Dodgers you just mentioned a moment ago. But I hate repeating myself, but I'll do it one more again for this episode as we head into the long weekend. Wherever it gets hot, but for a 2 or 3 week stretch, I believe it's going to win this division. Texas is looking strong right now, as you mentioned, winning 6 in a row. Thank you very much for taking care of Cleveland in the first 2 games of that series. But I think it's more about Seattle and them underachieving this year, like we've been talking about. Their offense has been too consistently inconsistent. They have you can argue they have the best starting staff, and their bullpen is very good, but very underrated in baseball. But their offense has been hot and cold, to say the least.
Yeah, it's really you really don't know what you're going to get with them. So yeah, like I said, we'll see what happens in the AL West. I'm sure there's a lot to be decided. They're going to schedule real quick. We'll start with tomorrow's games, as we said. Pittsburgh and Philly, they finish up their series. Cincy and Milwaukee as well. Miami and Colorado. White Sox start their series against Cleveland tomorrow. St. Louis and Atlanta. Tampa Bay and Kansas City, Detroit and Texas, they start up their series. The Angels and Seattle, as they finish theirs up, as well as San Diego and the Dodgers get ready. The first game of that series will be on the MLB Network.
All right, your national TV schedule for the 4th of July weekend, starting on Saturday, July the 4th. Fox Saturday Baseball will have the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Chicago Cubs from Wrigley Field. Most of the country will get that, including here in Chicago. Others will get the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves. Coverage starts at 7 o'clock on Fox this coming Saturday, Central Standard Time. And on Sunday, all games will be seen on Peacock, courtesy of NBC Sports in a Star-Spangled Sunday edition. Most of the country will get the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves at 11:30 a.m. on Sunday on NBC. And then the nightcap on NBC will see the San Diego Padres take on the Los Angeles Dodgers. All the other remaining games on Sunday can be seen on Peacock, including both Chicago teams. So that's your schedule for this upcoming holiday weekend in MLB.
Yeah, just Peacock's going to get a lot of traffic. Excuse me, coming up this weekend. See, I'm all shook up here. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports with LaKeena, McGee, Steve Brown with you. As you shift gears and talk some NBA. Excuse me. We're doing this live, folks. LeBron James has decided not to go back to the Lakers, and some interesting teams are being considered. What do you think, Sid?
After watching ESPN after our show on Monday, you figured that the Warriors have some traction here in terms of being the leaders in the clubhouse of getting LeBron James. Draymond Green opted out of his contract. Let's see, Steph Curry is still vacationing around somewhere. Jimmy Butler's hurt. He won't be back until next year. And there's rumors that the possible trade can be in the works for Anthony Davis from Washington to Golden State. And LeBron James, at least publicly telling the Lakers, thank you, no thank you, even though we know the real story that Mark Walter and the Lakers' new ownership said, you're on our timeline, not your timeline, so you don't want to be heading out the door. But regardless of that, I think the Warriors are in the clubhouse right now to get him. Can they pull off a trade for Anthony Davis? That's going to be kind of tricky, so we'll see what happens with that. I know Cleveland's the other option for him to go back home, for a year. I heard some people say Miami. I don't see that happening. Some people say Minnesota. I don't see that happening either. So if you're LeBron James going to perhaps your last year in the NBA, I always said this for the last 2 or 3 years that next year, 2027, will be his last year playing because he'll be 42 by the time next season starts. If you're LeBron James, you want the road less travel to win a title. Is it with Golden State? I know he wants to play with Steph Curry, but both of them are old and both of them have been injured over the last few years. And as I said, I'll still stand on this. Not a good idea. Let's just say that trade does happen with Anthony Davis going to Golden State, you teaming up with Steph Curry. Does that guarantee you perhaps resign Draymond Green to a lesser amount in terms of his contract? Is it a guarantee that the Warriors are going to win a title? No. Do you think all those guys are going to stay healthy majority of the regular season? No. I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting. I think I saw Chris Haynes report that the Wizards aren't going to trade Anthony Davis. So again, take that for what it's worth. Chris Haynes already
we heard that before.
Yeah, so again, we'll have to wait and see if there's still truth to that. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what LeBron does. Like I say, could he go to Golden State? Who knows? Some people say he could go to Cleveland. No, he's not coming to the Bulls, folks. So y'all can, I know our buddy Matt Peck would love that. Association. Hi, Matt. The Bulls. I'm kidding, Matt. He knows I'm joking, but yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, this whole thing with LeBron, I think, I guess I saw somewhere where he wants to do like a documentary, like a Last Dance type thing. Okay, you can do that. That's fine. But yeah, it's gonna be just to see if he does it, but. Just the absurdity of some of this is just like, we'll see what happens. But I'm kind of like in that realm of, okay, just pick somebody, LeBron, please. Let's not go through this again, please.
Yeah, he loves the spotlight. He loves the headlines. He loves to control the narrative. And this is just another example of all the things that he's done throughout his life, his basketball life, throughout his career. So this is just another notch in the belt.
All right. Now, speaking of the Lakers, I guess now they don't have to pay LeBron all that money. They can, spend. They got Colin Sexton, Quentin Grimes. They traded for Walker Kessler from Utah. It includes a $130 million payment option that he signed a couple of years ago. He was at Utah. So yeah, I guess look, you got to pay LeBron all that money. So now the Lakers, can just spend.
Yeah, and they can actually put a team around Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. And let's not forget, Luka Doncic wanted Austin Reeves back. Well, he got his wish. And so the Lakers, as we talked about, they need a wing player. They definitely need a big man. Where they're going to get that from, I don't know. Jackson Hayes has been MIA. DeAndre Ayton, he had a couple of nice moments last year, but he's really been a big disappointment. So, the Lakers need a big guy to patrol the paint. And you can actually, as I said before, add a third scorer to help out Doncic and Austin Reeves. Like you said, they did get Walker Kessler, so they'll shore up some of that front court issues. But in my opinion, they still need another scorer and definitely one to come off the bench to spell Luka and Austin Reeves. So, GM Rob Pelinka, you don't have LeBron to worry about anymore. You still have some work to do.
All right, now Kawhi Leonard, it looks like he's going back. I don't think the trade's made official yet, but the Clippers are going to send him to the Raptors for Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, 2 first-round picks, 1 pick swap, and 2 second-round picks. So that's a lot for the return of Kawhi. We know the Clippers they are starting to rebuild. The Raptors made the playoffs last year, so I'm wondering, is this going to be a bigger move coming up for Toronto?
You would think, because Kawhi Leonard has had his best year of his career statistically last year because he was healthy for the most part. But like you say, if Toronto wants to compete for the playoffs again, perhaps make an improvement, they have to set up for this. Has to be a setup for another move because you have Kawhi Leonard and just a bunch of other young guys. It's not going to do it, especially in the Eastern Conference. On the flip side for the Clippers, I love this move. As we said before on our show on Monday, this franchise was had a lack of first round picks. They get a couple of them now from Toronto. You have Darius Garland there now, who you trade for James Harden at the trade deadline last year. You have Keenan Wagler, the University of Illinois standout. You drafted him a couple weeks ago. And you have Brandon Ingle, who I was vouching for him for the All-Star game last year. So you have some nice young talent and mixed in with some veterans. Teron Lue, if assuming that the Clippers don't make any other major moves, you kind of like this roster going into next year. I can actually work with this roster instead of just pulling team like I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, speaking of that, as we go, switch gears to talk about the Bulls here. They signed Zach Collins to a 2-year, $17 million deal. But the big splash they made is Norman Powell, of course. Of course, he did some big things with the Clippers the last few years. He gets a 2-year, $45 million deal. Look, I think people, Bulls fans, I know people were upset about the Zach Collins deal. It's actually a very workable deal if you read our buddy Casey Johnson's tweets, because they can still trade him at some point, and they could probably even trade Norman Powell too if he does well. And I could probably tell that. So for all those folks who are already bitching and moaning, I guess I'm going to say bitching and moaning about the move that Bryson Graham has made, especially them not having traded their second round picks last week during the NBA draft. I think people just need to chill and just let Bryson Graham and the rest of that front office do their thing. I'm just saying.
Yeah, remember, the Bulls are not supposed to win next year, and I know they're trying to field the team to be quote-unquote competitive next year. I know they drafted Caleb Wilson. They drafted Swain out of the University of Texas. That's your starting point there. You still have Josh Giddey and Matas Buzelis and blah, blah, blah. But remember, LaKeena, like you said, this is about the future. Norman Powell, I'm sure if he plays well next year, he's going to come knocking. If you can hear that knock on Bryson Graham, source say, trade me to a contender, whether it's back in Miami where he was last year or the Clippers or wherever. It sets those veterans up to have nice deals. Like I said, Zach Collins, I know he was injured for the most part last year, but when he was healthy, he provides the Bulls with some great inside play, especially defensively. So, like you said, financially it works out well for Chicago to get them potentially get them underneath for another high draft pick for next year. So, like I said, it's not about now, but it's about down the road. Like you always said, the Bulls fans wanted this tear down and rebuild. You're getting it now.
Yeah, exactly. So, could be interesting to see how these moves come out here. Now, Mo Wagner, of course, he's going to Brooklyn on a 2-year, $19 million deal. Our buddy Nikola Vucevic is going back to where it all started, going back to Orlando on a 1-year deal, I should say, $3.9 million. Mike Conley Jr., he's going to Boston on a 1-year deal. And the Knicks lost one of their top supporting players as Mitch Robinson. Look, I mean, we knew that this is going to be the reality of some of those Knicks players. So he's going to go to Boston on a 3-year, $47.4 million deal. So, look, he deserves some money, and the Knicks were going to pay him. So I commend him for taking the money and going to Boston.
Yeah, this is a good move for Boston. I know they had a couple of nice young players to fill in that front court spot last year, especially when Jason Tatum was out and Keita did a nice job as well. I know they have Vucevic with them last year. He's no longer there via the Bulls at the trade deadline last year. But this gives them some much needed size and it gets some much better defensive presses in the middle as well. You know, you let Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown be still on the team by this time by next season. To let them do their thing offensively. Defensively, the Celtics struggled in that first round against the Philadelphia 76ers. That shows up their problem right there. So Mitch Robinson is going to do a hell of a job for the Celtics. You just got to work on those free throws.
Yeah, exactly. So any other moves real quick that surprised you, that have made you scratching your head? What?
No, just that I'm with you as far as some Bulls fans are yelling and screaming about why you signed Norman Powell, why you signed Zach Collins again. This is not about right now, but it's about the future down the road. So we'll see what the moves that Bryce can make us. Remember, until this free agency period, which started yesterday, you only had 6-7 players under contract, and now that was including the rookies that you selected last week. So you still had to fill out the rest of this roster, and so it's still going to be a long process. But as you always say, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think really like the only thing, like I said, I think LeBron, figuring out where he's going to go. I think he already knows. I think he wants to make a big production about it. So And also to Kawhi going back to the Raptors. I mean, we'll see if that actually becomes a thing and he can stay healthy. I know he said I know he loved it up there. They won a championship. So, but again, we'll see if he can if they can do anything, or if he even stays there.
Yep. Like I said, we see what happens with that. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 kicks off on the special edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago Now, a special holiday edition of the program. When we return, we'll have our very special guest, Chicago sports radio pioneer and legend, Miss Julia Swieca Gannon is going to come out and hang out with us without messing with the fireworks, of course. To hang out with us for the rest of the show, we'll talk all Chicago sports, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, Sox, and everything else in between. And we got to mention the World Cup as well. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You listen to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Later.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on a special 4th of July edition. You're locked in. You're locked and loaded. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me, LaKeena McGee. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, Kiosk, and IG.
We'll kick off our hour number 2 of this special program with a very special guest, a Chicago sports pioneer and legend. If you have any questions or comments regarding the subjects of Chicago sports and more that we're going to talk about for the rest of the show, you can definitely hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
As Sid says, she is a pioneer in Chicago sports media, particularly Chicago sports radio. She's the one, the only. You love her. We love her too. She's a fabulous and amazing Miss Julia Swieca Gannon. Hey, Julie, how are ya?
Hey, guys. I love you guys right back. Thank you so much for having me on today. And I'm doing great. I mean, there's so much to talk about in Chicago sports and Chicago baseball especially, which is my favorite sport. Just so much excitement in town right now, and it sure beats some of these summers we've had where one team is really bad. To have two teams that would be in the playoffs if they started tomorrow, how could you not be loving summer in Chicago right now if you're a baseball fan?
Well, I hope you're keeping cool, because I know it's like hotter than Hades right now here in the area. But yeah, let's talk about your favorite team, the White Sox. Yeah, they're having a tough time, getting the sweep against Baltimore. The Orioles up 3-1 right now in the bottom of the 5th. But how surprised are you with the start this White Sox team has had so far?
Well, I guess I kind of felt like nowhere to go but up. When you've lost 100+ games in 3 straight seasons, could it get much worse? I was optimistic a lot because of the pitching, but the guys I was optimistic about haven't even been up here. Shane Smith was the opening day starter. He was a disaster to start. He's been down in the minors. Will hopefully be back up soon. Jonathan Cannon, I was excited about him. He's been up for a cup of coffee, and that's it. So the reason I had some optimism was some of the pitching, and it has been good pitching, but not the guys I expected. Grant Taylor out of the bullpen, love this guy. Probably one of my favorite guys on this team. Every time he comes in, I just feel like the other team has potential to be shaking their heads walking back to the dugout, and I love that. And they've been fun to watch. I think what I'm seeing is Will Venable. These guys love him. They love playing for him. He is the epitome of what we call a player's manager. He's got their backs, and they will run through walls for him. And I just picture the rest of baseball going, wait, where did this team come from? Like, they've just been such a surprise and so much fun to watch. And even when they lose, as long as they're not getting trashed, I feel pretty good about it because they're competitive this year. And who would have thought, after what we've seen the bleep show the last 3 years, that you would say on July 1st, the White Sox have a division lead, not just are competing for the playoffs, but they're sitting atop the division. So it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, speaking of the clubhouse and the team, of course, as you said, the bleep show. Manager Chris Getz 3 years ago said he didn't like this team. Of course, people assumed that he said that just because the team was starting to lose. Well, it was much deeper than that. We all know the stories what happened with former players like Yasmani Grandal, Tim Anderson, yada, yada, yada. But as you mentioned, Julie, the whole culture has changed. Yes, you had to give Will Venable, the manager, credit, but some of the other guys has been setting the tone in that clubhouse as well. I want to get your thoughts about Mike Vasil in particular. I was watching a game on a Saturday in spring training against the Dodgers. He got injured. I said, I hope it's not Tommy John. It turned out my worst fears came true. But Mike Vasil just has been one of the big surprises on the White Sox team this year. He's not even playing.
Which I think is pretty amazing. I mean, even the fact that he's getting under other teams' pitchers' skins because he's, waving his wand and they're like, what is this guy doing? If you can get to Derek Skubal and you're not even on the team, that's pretty impressive. I love that the guys asked for him to be in the club, in the dugout during the games, that they went to Sox management and to Will Venable and said, hey, I know he's injured, but could he be around? And they love him. And I worried a little bit that the wand shtick was going to get kind of old, but they believe in it. They think it's fun. And when you saw the relationship he had with Munetaka Murakami, that just made me so happy to see like these unlikely guys bonding and that he's, giving his special spell for them. And then Mooney will go like he's been shocked or something. I just thought it was such an infusion of vibrant energy and fun. And he does a lot of this mic'd up stuff, either, for the Friday night broadcast or whatever. He's constantly mic'd up, and he is worth a listen every time because he's hilarious. The other day, I reposted something where he's like chirping, like saying hi to Pope Leo. He's like, "Hey, Leo, thanks for, pulling for us. We're praying for you." Like, you're talking to the Pope like he's the guy sitting next to you at the bar. So it's really been fun to watch. Like I said, I worried it was going to get kind of old, but the guys still love it. And I think Harry Potter night might be July 29th. It's coming up later this month.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be right at home that night with all his fellow wizards.
Well, plus they're winning too. I think that's what really, I think that's why you can kind of like, you're fine with it because, like I said, they're winning. What moves do you think the White Sox, have to make if they really are going to compete, not just in the Central, but also in all of the AL? Because besides them, only about 2 or 3 other teams are above 500 right now. So what moves do you think they need to make?
The big rumor is always pitching. Everybody wants to acquire more pitching, and whether it'll be rotation help or bullpen help remains to be seen. I think they kind of look at it as we're getting Mooney back. That's almost the same as acquiring a slugger at the trade deadline. So I don't think they're as worried about the offense as they are just strengthening the pitching, because you can always use more pitching, especially in a bullpen that has some unproven guys in it. Now, I have heard more rumors probably about starters. The one I heard today, Bob Nightingale was saying the White Sox could be in contention for Sonny Gray, which would be a terrific pickup. And, would give you some veteran leadership in the one spot at the top of the rotation. We heard Tarek Skubal quite a bit. I don't see the Tigers trading Skubal to the White Sox. It'd have to be a heck of a package of their minor league guys. And that is a concern for Sox fans is, oh my gosh, don't give up all these highly touted guys in the minors. Well, you have to give up something to get something. So they're going to have to find somebody down there they're willing to part with that'll bring a good return. The name I don't like, and I take a beating on this quite a bit from both my Cub fan husband and people on Twitter. I don't want to roll this Chapman here. Yes, I know he still throws hard. I know he can give you a proven closer, but I worry about the clubhouse dynamic. I would want to know how he would fit in here. I would want that vetted pretty well because it is such a fragile dynamic. I don't want to see them bring in somebody just to win and have it destroy all the chemistry this team has together. So I'm not his biggest fan. I'll say that. And I know Cubs fans appreciate what he did to help them win a World Series, but I would rather see them get a different closer, or, maybe you just ride or die with Grant Taylor. They did demote Sir Anthony Dominguez, and I think that was good. Taking him out of that 9th inning, I think is a smart move. Maybe you see what Taylor's got at the back end and just, you weren't expected to do anything this year. So maybe you say, let's give him his shot. But I do think it's going to be a pitching move over a position player.
We're talking Chicago sports and more with our good friend Julia Swieca Gannon for the entire remainder of the show right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena here kicking it with you. Now, speaking of White Sox pitching, Julia, I want to talk about Davis Martin. We had our good friend on the show, Jordan Lazowski, on back in March, and I said to him that I thought that Davis Martin was going to have a good year. Now, am I going to see him say that I predicted him being an all-star? No, but I thought that Davis Martin was going to have a good year. Last year, the offense wasn't behind him all the way, and he had some shoddy defense behind him as well. LaKeena can back me up on this. I said on this show and to a few others at the end of April, if Davis Martin followed up with a great May, he have a good chance to be an all-star. I'll be shocked if he wasn't an all-star in Philadelphia next month. Talk to us about Davis Martin. I know he's going to get the start tomorrow to open up this series at the Guardians, but talk to us about Davis Martin. Even though he struggled for the month of June, he bounced back nicely last week against Kansas City.
And you are spot on, Sid. You had a good eye at the start of the year to say this guy is going to be such an important part of this rotation. If you told me you thought he was going to be an all-star, I wouldn't know any better. I would say yeah, Sid's always got a good eye on Sox talent. But I mean, it would be great to see him represent in the Midsummer Classic. And I think what's been impressive, you talked about how he hasn't had a great June. He's had maybe 2 clunker starts all year where you've been like, but he bounces back. He doesn't string together 2 or 3 bad starts in a row. He might not be as dominant as he was to start the year, but he doesn't have prolonged stretches of like bad starts in a row. And that's what you want at the top of your rotation. That's what you want from a stopper. And I think what I've seen with him around some of the other young pitchers, he does seem to be a guy they can go to, a guy they can learn from. But I do feel like what he was doing last year was a sign of things to come. I don't think any of us thought he would get off to the incredible start he had and how good he was at home to start the season. I mean, the whole team has been great at home, but Davis Martin was unbeatable at home for his first 9-10 starts. So I think that's been a huge part of their home cooking is what he's given them every time he takes the mound.
And he seems like a really good guy too. I've heard of him in some interviews. He seems like a very funny, kind of like a quirky guy. So yeah, I think that's really what's helping a lot as well. And I think he definitely deserves, being considered to be a starter up in Philly in about a month from now. Do you think Will Venable and the great job he's done so far, at least right now, do you think he's kind of like in the running for AL Manager of the Year? You think?
I think he's the runaway favorite. Just the turnaround that this team has had from, going from 100 losses the last 3 years to where they're at now. I mean, you see the difference in run differential. You see just that infusion of chemistry, and it starts at the top. If you guys saw the other day when Eric Fetty was pitching, he was struggling to finish the fifth. He had 2 outs and he was struggling. And Will Venable walked out there, and Steve Stone, God bless him, he nailed it. He said, I don't think he's going out there to take him out. I think he's going out there to see, can you give me one more out? And whatever Eric Fetty told him, Will said, okay, you got this. It's your inning. He got the final out and he qualified for the win. And if that doesn't build culture in your clubhouse from your manager, I mean, if you're a pitcher and you see that, he could have easily given him the hook. Even with a big lead, he could have said, you know what, you're struggling. We don't want them making a comeback here. We're going to go to somebody else. He let him have that inning. And I think when you see things like that, it builds confidence from the players and their manager. They know he has their backs. And I think even some of the decisions he makes, whether it's, lineup changes or, who he's putting where defensively, he's made a lot of really good moves where even when the lineup comes out, you might go, oh my gosh, why is he batting this guy? And it works. So I really think he's got to be far and away the front runner. And yeah, I can't imagine it going to anybody else. Even if they had I don't want to say horrific collapse, but even if they struggled in the second half, I still think he's the best of the best in the American League.
Yeah, with this current stretch that the White Sox are on right now as we head towards the month of July, they're currently 12-11 without Munetaka Murakami. But me and LaKeena talked about this to start the show. It hasn't been just one guy. It's been a combination of unsung heroes that's carried this White Sox team, like Tristan Peters, Sylvester Stitt, Brady Montgomery. My guy Sam Metanacci leading off. Cal Teal is back. Talk to us about some of your favorite unsung heroes that's made a difference for this White Sox team this year.
I think you're absolutely right that there have been so many guys contributing. I mean, even that stretch you were talking about where they first lost Mooney and you had to face the Yankees, you had to face the Dodgers, you had to face, we faced the Guardians once now. You had all these like powerhouse teams you had to do well against, and they held their own. They did fine without him. They're actually scoring more runs without him in the lineup. So imagine when he comes back, how much better it could get. I think what's really cool is the bottom of the lineup lately has been contributing. Tristan Peters has got to be one of the best stories in baseball this year. The fact that he's a former Savannah Banana and he plays amazing defense. He gets on base. I think he's been one of my favorites. I had a chance to meet him at an autograph signing last week. Could not have been sweeter. Could not have been nicer. And I actually asked him, because I was looking at his Wikipedia before I went to the event. I said, is it true you met your wife line dancing? And he's like, oh yeah, we were friends for 4 years. We did swing dancing. We did line dancing, blah, blah, blah. And it made me like him even more because I was like, man, what a great, just like feel good, warm, fuzzy, meet cute kind of thing. And everybody who saw him that night and interacted with him said the same thing, that he was so genuine, so down to earth. And I think that's what I'm sure places like CHSN are seeing great ratings because they're doing so much to promote these guys, because they're giving you insight to what they're like off the field, to how they interact together. I was at another event a few weeks ago where I met Noah Schultz and Sid's guy, Sam Antonacci, and Colson Montgomery was there.
Yes.
And again, they were so delightful. I said something to Colson about, hey, you and Chase Mydroth could be on the all hair team. And he's like all geeky and awkward. He's like, really? You think I have good hair? And I have him like running his hands over his hair, all self-conscious. And I mean, they're young, they're sweet, they're unspoiled. I think that's a part of what makes this team so appealing. If you want to talk about some of the other unsung heroes, how about Tyler Schweitzer last night? He got a 4-inning save and got sent down today because they were bringing up Noah Schultz. You didn't expect that from him, but he gave the White Sox everything he had. I hope we'll see him again. I think we will. But some of the guys out of the bullpen that have stepped up in tight spots where you didn't expect them to come through, and they have. I think those guys have been incredibly underrated. But I look at everybody on this team, and as you said, everybody's coming up different on a different night. Everyone's coming through clutch. I love Chase Mydroth, and I always go back to the Moneyball line. Why do we like Chase Mydroth? Because he gets on base. And they're scrappy like that. I mean, they were in a blowout game the other day, and he's hustling to turn a ground out to get the final out of the 9th inning. These guys have that one, I don't want to say the will to win, that's a Hawkism, but they do have that desire to show people like, hey, we don't care what you thought of us. We knew we could win. And I think with each passing win, they've built on that. But there are so many guys I look at. Luis Angel Acuna is probably like the bane of my existence as a White Sox fan. And he's actually had a really good June. I actually took him as my pick to click today. And I know I have people like messaging me like, are you feeling okay? Like I've been the one who wanted him out of town all season. But guys, when you're just ready to write him off, all of a sudden, they come back from the dead and you think, okay, I'm sorry I wrote you off. You do have some value to this team. So Derek Hill, who was a great contributor for the first few months, gave them some veteran leadership in the outfield. Even Randall Grishik, who didn't do much, with the Yankees and then came here and is a stud. I hope the Yankees every day say, what were we thinking? But he's been really good for that clubhouse, and he and Benintendi being like the veteran presences in the clubhouse. These guys love them. They're having fun. They're saying it's some of the best times they've had in their veteran career. So it really is, like I said, it's such a delicate thing, baseball chemistry, and you can have a team that hates each other and still wins. But I think when you have a team that likes each other this much, if you drop somebody in the middle, you better make sure they're going to mesh.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got to make your husband happy here, Julie. So let's move on and talk some Cubs here. But yeah, look, the Cubs, for everything, they've been up, they've been down, they've been in between. And now it looks like they're starting to kind of get it going with the weather warming up. Dansby Swanson has had a great last few weeks. PCA had a historic month last month. So where do you think the Cubs are? What do you think about the Cubs? Do you think what moves can they make to sort of get a shot, perhaps, especially with their pitching?
I think for them, it's got to be all about pitching. I am amazed at the job they've done this year, just staying in contention. The fact that they're a playoff team right now with all the pitching injuries they've had, it's ridiculous. I've never seen a team have so many injuries to the pitching staff. It's not just the whole team. You've seen teams that have had, bad stretches of injuries. This pitching staff is ridiculous. I mean, the other day you're hearing Hobie Milner having appendicitis and Ubering himself to the hospital. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? How much more can the Cubs take in terms of hits to their pitching staff? And they keep calling up guys, and the fact that they're staying afloat, I think, is really amazing. I don't remember ever seeing a team in baseball that had that many injuries to the pitching staff and still stayed afloat. And I think that's a credit to Craig Counsell, who I know a lot of Cubs fans are not big fans of, but I think what he's been able to do with this team amidst the injuries has been really impressive. You mentioned Dansby Swanson. He was batting 175 or something through the first 2.5 months of the season. And then all of a sudden, when you're thinking, oh boy, this might be the tail end of his career, he goes crazy. I mean, he single-handedly is winning series, putting up 14 RBIs in a weekend. So you have these guys that are going to come through for you at the plate. I think PCA to me is probably the biggest conundrum. And I know every Cubs fan loves him. I think the people on the outside are like, I don't know about this guy, because he can have things he does that are really stupid. But then he has brilliant games, and he has, 2 homers in a game, or he has the walk-off win. I mean, I would think Cubs fans get frustrated with him, but his upside is so high that they're willing to overlook it. I think people who maybe aren't Cubs fans look at it and go, oh, this guy's kind of a goof. The situation getting into it with the Sox fan, I mean, Sox fans all day long were saying, we broke PCA. No, you didn't. PCA is fine. But it did kind of seem to get in his head a little bit. And I think some of what you see with him when he is either, making mistakes on the base paths or making questionable judgment, like yapping at the fan, it's immaturity. It's just him being young. And I think he's a good guy, but just maybe take some missteps from just still being so green. So I know it's a very long-winded answer to your question, but I just can't get over that this team, I don't think they have it to beat the Brewers for the division. I could be wrong. They could push a run across in the second half, but I do think they're a playoff team. And the fact that they've done that with so many pitching injuries, I don't know many teams in baseball that could sustain all those injuries and still be where they're at.
We should invite that female fan to Wrigley in August when the Sox meet the Cubs. I know this is besides the point. Your shoe is going to be there for at least two of those 3 games. But if we can invite her to Wrigley, they'll be great. But going back to the Cubs, Julia, Alex Bregman, who signed that big free agent contract in the offseason, is not having a good year. And he didn't hustle out for a ball down the first baseline. John Boogjiambi on the TV side called him out for it. I know Bregman answered the media before that series the other night in the opener the other night against San Diego. Of course, he had a big thunderous home run last night to shut everybody up, at least for now. But talk to us about what you expect from Mr. Bregman for the rest of the season. Do you think he'll have respectable numbers? Because I know people talk about his difference-making skills inside that clubhouse with some of those young guys in there. But what do you expect from him, at least stat-wise, between now and the end of the regular season?
Well, I think the word you used there was respectable numbers. And yeah, I think I'll have respectable numbers, but did you go out and get him for respectable numbers, or did you go out and get him for some eye-opening numbers? And so, I think he'll have a better second half than the first half, but will it still be enough to have Cubs fans feeling like this was the right move to make? And I do think there is something to be said for his status in the clubhouse and the professionalism he brings. But on the flip side, are you showing professionalism if you dogged it to first base? And all guys have lapses like that, but I'm glad he got called out for it. Again, my husband, the Cubs fan, was like, I don't think he was dogging it. I think he's just not very fast. I'm like, no, don't make excuses for him. And I would say the same thing about a Sox player. And I did. I mean, Sid, there were, the Moncadas and the Luis Roberts and all those guys who we had to call out for dogging it once in a while. But I do think that Craig Counsell is going to kind of be gentle. He's not going to dress
Andrew
him down
Vaughn last year at the Cubs.
What's that?
As an Andrew Vaughn last year against the Cubs at Wrigley last year in that second game. I was there. I was sitting next to a Sox fan. Like, he should have ran in. I was like, oh, yeah. And he got set down the next day.
Of course. And that's how it should be. I think guys do. It's the Bobby Cox rule with Andrew Jones. I don't care if you're a future Hall of Famer. You didn't hustle in the outfield. Come have a seat next to me, and I'll decide when you're ready to play again. So, you maybe can't walk that line as much with veteran players and especially your high-priced acquisitions. But I do think it is important for whether you're Will Venable or Craig Counsell or whomever to send a message that, like, I don't care if you're the best player on our team or not, you better hustle every night. And I think Chicago fans in general, doesn't matter what team, what sport, Chicago sports fans want to see you hustle. They want to see you get every ounce of talent you can out of your body. They don't want to see people who are dogging it, who are half-assing it. That's not Chicago. So across sports, doesn't matter if you're playing for the Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, Sox, whomever, bust your butt. That's what the fans want to see. And they will reward you with so much love for hustle every time. And I think, going back to Antonacci, I think he's a great example of that he is scrappy and hustles and he takes his hit by pitches and blah, blah, blah. It's just something you want to see as a baseball fan. Like, I'm paying money to watch you play. I'm invested in this team emotionally, whatever. I don't want to see you give up on a play. And so I really think Bregman will probably not repeat that again. I think he's probably had enough backlash that for whatever reason he didn't hustle, he will hustle from here on out. But it wasn't a great look for a guy who is your cornerstone of the offseason.
Yeah, and I heard about what happened. Yeah, that was just not good. I'm glad that I'm sure counsel probably called him out, gave a little talking to in private. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, let's be real here. He's not gonna call him out, in the media. That's not who he is. So he's gonna go talk to him in private about that stuff. So anybody else in private about that. So it's gonna be interesting to see if he's not gonna do it again, I'm sure. So we'll see what happens here. Now, Julie, let's go to a team
LaKeena, I have a quick question for you, because I know you're in line with the Cubs. I know you're keeping an eye on those boys. In the offseason, what did you think? Were you I thought they needed to help the back end of the bullpen. Yeah. And that they didn't go get bullpen help, I thought was coming out to get them a couple times early in the season. And I still maintain that they should have done more pitching wise in the offseason. What did you think of what they did in the offseason and where they're at now?
Well, look, like I said, I like the Bregman trade. He probably could have came a couple of years ago, but that's a different conversation. And the pitching, yeah, I agree. I mean, the pitching, that should have been, especially now with guys getting hurt and all freak accidents and whatever. Steele's still out. So yeah, I think that's going to be the cornerstone of Jed Hoyer's focus going to the trade deadline is perhaps maybe getting another starter, perhaps maybe even getting a couple other middle relief guys, because it's really going to be the pitching that's going to take whether or not that the Cubs can catch up to the Brewers and win that NL Central. I think they'll still get into the playoffs, but the pitch is really going to be the wild card, the $1 million question: can they win the NL? The offense will be okay. And maybe they add another bat, but the pitch is really going to be the bread and butter. But with playoff games, that's the Dodgers the last couple of years.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about one team that's kind of on the up and up, and that is the Bulls, of course. Bryson Graham, new VP of basketball ops. Of course, Thiago Sport, new head coach. I know you've been seeing on Bulls Twitter, Julie, about all folks are already freaking out because they signed Norman Powell. They signed Zach Collins. So where are you at with the Bulls right now as they get ready for this brand new chapter?
Well, heck, they sure were ready for the free agency period to start, weren't they? I mean, all of a sudden, when you see that they acquire Norman Powell, you're like, wait, where did that come from? I didn't even realize it was July 1st yet. So I think it's been pretty funny to see how Bulls fans are re-energized to see moves coming across, just to see some action. And I do think the new management is really interesting to watch how they interact. It's a different vibe, I think. It's a very young, fresh, hip player development kind of vibe. So they are, I think Bulls fans are seeing potential. They're seeing things that they like or things that they might be able to be excited about or build on. But I think there's still a lot of growing pains with this team because they are committing to building young. Even with their draft picks, like it was exciting to see, who are they going to draft? Oh, we have another Caleb in town, blah, blah, blah. Like there was such excitement for the Bulls draft. And I don't know if Bulls fans have felt that way recently. But I felt like it was must-see TV that night. So you're building around Giddey, you're building around Buzelis, you're bringing back Collins. You've got some pieces that you feel know the drill of being a Bull. But how do you bring them along as young players? And I think that's what the Powell signing is just giving them not only a perimeter scorer, but somebody who can help stabilize a very young, unproven team.
What do you think about the new head coach, Thiago Splitter? Of course, he takes over the reins at Portland early last year, thanks to that Chauncey Billups and the rest of NBA betting scandal. Of course, he got some Trailblazers into the playoffs. They gave the Spurs a little bit of a scare, but San Antonio gets past them in 5-6 games. And of course, now the ownership for the Blazers, that's a whole nother mess we can talk about another time. But what do you think about the hiring Tiago Splitter and what the Bulls are trying to do, at least on the court going forward?
I think it was a cool, bold move. I think you're right. What he did with the Trailblazers was so unexpected. And, everything I heard from people around the league and people who, players who have played for him, he is a guy that has some just an it factor about him. And I hope that they nailed this pick, because I feel like we've gone through so many ups and downs with Bulls coaches over the years since Phil Jackson left. And, and I was really sad to hear everything Billy Donovan was going through. That was heartbreaking because he's had so many personal problems off the court and everything. But I really think that this could be kind of a steal. I don't know if Bulls fans saw this coming. When Bulls fans were sitting there scouting who might be available, I don't think this was where they thought the Bulls were going. But I think Graham made a good pick, and I'm looking forward to seeing, once they open camp, what kind of style he brings and how he's able to work with these young guys. But I like his vibe a lot.
Yeah, definitely has a good players coach kind of thing, so Let's see what happens that now. Let's go to the Bears here. Let's get this out the way, because I don't want to go into a long tangent with the stadium stuff. What do you think about all the stadium stuff now there are rumors that they're looking at places near Wolf Lake, and the Indiana's kind of out of it, but they're not. Maybe Arlington Heights is out of it. Maybe they're not. So what do you think about this whole situation with the Bears Stadium, Julie?
I hate it. And I know I've gone on rants about it on my sports cooking videos. It makes me so mad at them that they have fumbled the ball so badly on this. When you bought that land in Arlington Heights, you should have vetted, what is the tax situation going to be? How do the residents feel about this? What is what's the soil like? What's the traffic patterns? You spent all this money and you're going to have this entertainment complex in Arlington Heights where the Bears play. And I was excited because I thought, oh, this is going to get them a Super Bowl. I mean, not in the Super Bowl, we'll get a Super Bowl to Chicago to be able to host a Super Bowl. And it just crumbled. I mean, the house of cards was poof, because they didn't have a plan in place. They spent all this money on land and then ran into all these problems and roadblocks, and there's the politicians in the way, and da-da-da. There's so many Bears fans coming from so many different angles. I'm mad at the Bears. I'm mad at the state of Illinois. I'm mad at Pritzker. I'm mad at Indiana. I don't want them to go to Indiana. Indiana, you have the Colts. Leave us alone. Let us work this out. But I can't blame Indiana for putting together a proposal. I think Indiana, at least where they've been looking about building, stinks. And I don't mean that metaphorically. I've driven through Hammond, Gary, as you're crossing into Indiana, it smells. And I don't want to sit at a Bears game and be holding my nose because the atmosphere smells. If I'm holding my nose, I want it to be because, Caleb threw a pick or something. But I've been fighting this. I've been fighting them going to Indiana. And I keep hoping there's a Hail Mary that's going to keep them in Illinois. I keep praying. I grew up in Arlington Heights. I was so excited to hear they were going to be there. It's not easy for people in the suburbs to get to Soldier Field. And I was like, oh, this gives us a fighting chance. We can actually get to some games. And I do think, the Bears have to have sensed that there's such a huge backlash. They sent out surveys to their season ticket holders. And it was 75% said, we don't want you playing in Indiana. And the Bears were like, ha, joke's on you. So I feel like they've mishandled the good vibe that was building with this team. I mean, the run they had last year, the love for Ben Johnson, the good, better, best videos, making the playoffs. They had so much Bears optimism. Bears fans were trash talking Green Bay, were trash talking their friends who have Super Bowl wins recently. I mean, there was so much potential, and the Bears just blew it to bits. I mean, anytime now you tell people you're a Bears fan, I guarantee you the first question out of their mouth is going to be, oh, where are they going to be playing? It's distasteful. Instead of oh, you guys have a great young coach and your quarterback's, he's something. Instead, it's about where they're playing. And that to me is just sickening. And as a side note, you guys know I'm a Northwestern girl. I have loved what Northwestern has done in building it. I mean, I'm going to, brag a little bit on behalf of my alma mater. NFL teams could play in this stadium if it had a bigger capacity. It is so tricked out. It is so state of the art. And Northwestern got this done in like a couple of years, start to finish, from saying we're going to demolish the stadium and build a new one to being ready to open that stadium this fall. They got this done so quickly, so efficiently. And for people who push back at me and say, oh, well, they didn't have to deal with the politicians and the taxes and blah, blah, blah. They have to deal with the city of Evanston.
Yeah.
Because all this is creating havoc in the neighborhood. For people who haven't been to Northwestern football, it is dropped right in the middle of a very tight Evanston community. And so there were, town hall meetings and things like that. And Northwestern seamlessly managed that situation. And Patrick Ryan, who is the big booster, who is, he's got his name on the football stadium and the basketball arena and the workouts. I mean, he's the guy with the money for Northwestern. He's also on the board for the Bears. And so it frustrates me that that didn't translate, not that he's solely responsible for the Bears, but that somebody at the Bears didn't say, look at what they did to get their stadium done so quickly, so efficiently. I am so psyched to go see that stadium when they play Penn State in October. And it just fits. It's aligned with everything else they've done developing athletics at Northwestern. The lakefront is gorgeous. The lacrosse stadium is gorgeous. Hats off to Kelly Amonte Hiller, who won another national championship this year. It makes me so happy to see what they're doing and the vibe and their stadium success. And then it just makes the Bears stadium failure like all that much more bitter to me.
Ooh, I told you that's why we're Second City Sports. We bring you hot opinions, hot opinions on this show, especially with the weather being the way it is outside. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. This is Julie right here on Sports Zone Chicago. And our fireworks spectacular of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Before we continue with these stadium issues, I'm using air quotes here. I know one name you did mention is Kevin Warren. He definitely gets a lot of blame, in my opinion. The head man of the Bears. And as me and LaKeena said when he got the job, you got to work these politicians. Not to say we're experts on politics in other states, but doing business in Chicago and the state of Illinois is very different, and he's starting to find that out now the hard way over the last couple of years. So he's definitely getting a lot of blame for that as well. But I want to ask you about the stadium issues I'm using issues here for the White Sox. So the reason why people are why the White Sox stadium issues keep coming up. Their contract with the state of Illinois runs out in 2029. And from what I've been told and what I've been hearing over the last few weeks is that the Ryan Stores and, of course, the Ishbias as well, they're waiting to see what the Bears could do before they start going to the state in the city about putting the stadium around the 78 area. And I know the Chicago Fire will have their new stadium coming there in the next couple of years or so. But give us your thoughts about the White Sox. What do you think they can learn from the Chicago Bears? Because I told a couple of people a few weeks ago, I think it was at that tailgate that I saw you at the last time a few weeks ago. I like for that stadium to stay there, quote unquote, forever. But whether I like it or not, I accept the fact that the White Sox are going to play near downtown in the next decade or so. And so I know that these new stadiums are they're near high populated areas where people to get to for restaurants and bars and clubs and all the other stuff. Talk to us about what you think that the White Sox are going to do with their new stadium situation, assuming around the 78 within the next several years or so.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say real quick, great point about Kevin Warren, who was brought here to help get a stadium deal done. So as far as I was concerned, like if he fumbles this, he can take a hike, but that's a whole nother subject. But you're right. The White Sox, Ishbia is infusing them with money. That's what this whole thing is about him transitioning from Jerry Reinsdorf, that he is going to put his money behind this club, this stadium. If you have somebody like that who is willing to spend the money, you have a lot more options. Sid, you're absolutely right that you keep hearing about like the South Loop and that, being somewhere closer to downtown is a thing for them. I'll just say this, and I don't disagree with that there's a huge advantage to being closer to downtown. When the White Sox are winning like they are, nobody talks about the stadium. Nobody says it's, in a bad spot or it's, the upper deck is too steep. That was years and years ago. But when you see that place packed, like it was for the Dodgers series, I was at the Saturday game, but those Dodgers games were just electric and packed, and you couldn't move on the concourse, and there were lines at the concession stands, and Sox fans were like, wait, we haven't had lines in 3 years. So people don't complain about the stadium as much when the team is winning. And so, if I were Ishbia, obviously you want to do what's best for your team. And if you're, going to build some crazy complex, like you said, that's, kind of more like a Wrigleyville South where you have restaurants and bars and, cool places to go. And, maybe you're closer to hotels and things like that. It does make sense. But I also feel like, could you put your money elsewhere and just leave the stadium alone? It's not a pressing issue. And, the neighborhood has taken a beating for a long time as being unsafe. It's not unsafe. It's really not. Maybe if you're like hanging around on the wrong street after 2 a.m, but it's not unsafe. I've gone to day games, night games, weekends, weekdays. I've never felt unsafe there. And when I was covering them, I left late at night and never felt unsafe there. And I think you're starting to see even that infusion of the activity in the bars in the neighborhood. Just the fact that like it's become a thing for people to go to Cork and Kerry after the games and like celebrate a win, that the bars in the area are playing Strokin' because that's the White Sox theme song this year. It's crazy to see that there is a neighborhood vibe. Sid, the tailgates are killer. I mean, they're great tailgates, and you don't.
Yes.
I'm not making this a Cubs versus Sox thing. The Cubs can't tailgate. They don't have a stadium parking lot right there. But that is something that makes the Sox unique, that they have people out there, playing bags and grilling burgers together and, hey, come on over and have a beer. And it is a very vibrant community right now when they're winning. So again, I understand the idea of being closer to downtown, being a South Loop team, whatever. At least the Sox aren't talking about moving out of state, knock on wood. So I can live with if they have to move, if they feel like that's necessary. I will say I've been to a lot of baseball stadia. I think I've been to at least 15. And I've been to ones that are kind of more on the fringe, and I've been to ones that are in the heart of downtown. And I see the pluses and minuses of both. But sometimes the downtown ones, they have to be kind of forced into a particular area to work. Even watching Camden Yards today with the Sox and the Orioles, I was there for the first time 2 or 3 years ago and just loved it. But it's not like right in the heart of downtown. It's not like, St. Louis's more recent stadium or something like that. It does have a little more breathing room around it. So, I already think, I forget what they call that whole stretch there where all the exits are like Madison, Monroe, like, the part downtown where there's like 6 exits in a row to go into the loop. I hate that area. I hate driving in that area. It makes my skin crawl. Are we going to make that worse by putting a stadium closer to downtown? Probably. I already hate the traffic patterns leaving the cell, the rate. It's kind of like the Bears. I hate to say it, but you're going to have to look at traffic patterns and maybe not at soil as much, but you're going to have to look at the impact of being more urban than you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think people forget that some of these stadiums are not. Some are closer to the city center, like you said, but they're also like in the outskirts. So here in Chicago, I mean, look, there's so much like downtown laying in the loop. So the White Sox, won a stadium in downtown area. I think we'll see where because there are some places downtown where they can build a stadium comfortably. So we'll see. But the Bear stuff is, and Sid and I, we talked about this at nauseam for like the last month, whether we hate it, but it's part of what we have to do here. Look at I mean you're right, Sid. I mean, look at where the Giants and the Jets play. They play in New Jersey. The 49ers play like 30 minutes away from where they practice for where they're at. So it's all about geography, like you said, Jillian, and it's gonna be interesting to see where they put that stadium. But I think the Nashville stuff is like over and done. I think that was just a ploy by old man Ryan Sarf to get people to talk. I think they will, and especially with HBO, you're putting a lot of the money up because the problem with the Bears stadium is that the McCaskies are broke. They have no liquid capital. So that's why they're doing all this with the taxes and stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but don't be in Illinois. It's going to depend on where.
I mean, I sure hope so. Growing up a Bears fan my entire life, I would hate to see them playing somewhere other than Illinois. But you're right. If they move to Arlington Heights, they're the Chicago Bears, but they're playing in Arlington Heights. It happens all over the NFL. And, I just want to keep them here. And it's just that can we really have the state of Illinois without a football team in it? I mean, Indiana gets 2 and we get 0. That just does not seem fair to me. So make it happen, Bears. Make it happen, politicians. I'm not going to get into politics here, but J.B. Pritzker, who has his eye on potentially running for president of the United States, if you're the governor who lost the Bears to Indiana, you just lost a ton of votes.
I think you can say that for his little brother Brandon Johnson, although he's I know he's up for re-election, I think next year, but he's going to be tagged for losing the Bears in the city of Chicago. But he has other issues, like you said. We're not a political show, so we're not going to get into that. But we do want to get into with you is the Bears on the field. Of course, Caleb Williams improved in his second year last year. No, he did not pass for 4,000 yards, but we saw the best and worst from him in that playoff comeback win against Green Bay. You saw what happened against the Rams. Now he's a new cover man for Madden NFL 27, the video game. I know this will be probably the first of 1,000 times we're going to ask you this between now and the start of the season. What do you expect in Caleb Williams in year number 3 overall, year number 2 in this Ben Johnson offense?
I think he just keeps getting better. I think he is motivated. I think he got a taste of what it could be like last year, and he wants to keep them moving in that direction. I love that he's the face of Madden. And I think it's so cool that he's going to be that guy for young Bears fans, that they're going to know him not just as the guy from the Bears, but the guy from my video game that I play. So I really think that's just so cool for him. And the fact that he and Chicago have just embraced each other in the first 2 years, I think it's going to keep getting better and better. They're giving him weapons in addition to the ones he's already had. I worry about my guy Cole Kmet because I adore him. He went to my high school. I really don't want to see him go. But it's up to Ben Johnson to figure out what to do with a 3 tight end set. And I know he can. In Ben, I trust. And I think what we'll see this year is you don't want to just be like that flash in the pan or that fluke or whatever. They had some trick plays and isn't that cute and blah, blah, blah. You want to be legitimate. And I think what you're starting to see is some of those higher quarterbacks that have been dominating the league for years, they're either regressing or they're getting toward retirement. And yes, I'm looking at you, Aaron Rodgers, but I'm also talking about guys like Patrick Mahomes, who I'm not disparaging him at all. He's a phenomenal quarterback, but he's getting up there. He's had his share of Super Bowl runs and he's had injuries to deal with. And I think you are starting to see this maturation of some of the younger quarterbacks, the new wave of quarterbacks. And I think it's going to be fun to watch. And I love that the Bears have a guy who's kind of spearheading the pack of young, fun quarterbacks to watch. It's refreshing to see in the NFL. And again, it's no disrespect to the guys who have been there the last couple of years, but we want to see some new people. We don't want to continue to see, Matt Stafford and Patrick Mahomes and I'm drawing a blank on the Eagles guy.
Jalen
Hurts. Yes. But it's time to see some different stuff going on. And I hope from, just the little bit I've seen of the Bears in the off season, that the relationship Caleb was developing last year with his targets just continues to grow, that these guys seem to have a really good bond. Again, young up and coming team that's growing together. There's something to be said for that. And if they like hanging out together and they like, working out in the off season together and all that, that's gold. That's going to feel really good when they hit the field this fall.
Now let's talk about the defense, Julie, because that's really going to be the number one question, especially at front seven. They did pick up Kobe Bryant, of course, Super Bowl champion with Seattle. TJ Edwards, we'll see how he looks. I know he had some injury issues last year. The lack of a pass rush, I know folks are still a little bit worried about that. Where are you?
I could not agree with you more. I was very disappointed they didn't get some sort of edge rusher in the draft. I thought that should have been a higher priority, and the fact that it was almost not a priority at all in the draft. So that disappointed me, and I'm a little nervous about the secondary, that, you lose some key guys in that secondary that was so magical last year. I worry a little bit about the DBs. So I think there are going to be some big questions to be answered on defense. And, hopefully, like you said, guys who were battling injuries last year come back healthy and can contribute. But yeah, the pass rush really makes me nervous. And like I said, draft weekend, I was sitting there just waiting to hear a name of somebody who is going to be that pass rusher. And when you've gone the first 4 or 5 rounds and you're not getting one, you think, okay, maybe they know something I don't. Maybe they have somebody in their back pocket that's going to be amazing. Maybe they're going to hit somebody in the free agent market, whatever. But I just kind of felt like if there was one thing I was disappointed with the offseason, that was it.
We're heading down the home stretch with our best friend, one of our best friends of the show, Miss Julia Swieca Gannon, right here on Second City Sports Zone Chicago Special Edition. LaKeena here, kicking it with you. Julia, we usually don't end these types of shows on the bad notes, but I had to ask you this question to get it out of the way. What do you think? What are your thoughts about these two Chicago sports media and one of the player icons that passed recently within the last few months or so? Terry Boyce first and Stacey King second.
As soon as you started your preface to this, I knew you were going with Stacey King, and I will address Terry first. Obviously, I worked with Terry for a decade, and just incredibly kind human being. He was very supportive to me early in my score career when I was really struggling. Like, hey, do I have a future here? Am I going to be a full-time on-air personality, or am I just going to, stay in the background? Like, he was very, very supportive, and I think the fact that he mentored so many people in the business was phenomenal. Funny as all get out and really witty. For people who don't remember him as a writer, his stuff in the Daily Herald was hilarious and sharp and acerbic. And like everything you heard from him on the radio, he was a writer first. And so terribly sad that we say this a lot about people gone too soon. But I think even though we knew he had been sick and battling illness, still tough to hear and really sad for all of us who are score heads and score graduates and people who are still there. Just a huge loss for the station and for the fans. And Stacey King, same thing. I mean, he was man of the people. The fans loved tuning into broadcasts because they could count on Stacey to say something that would have them rolling on the floor laughing. And I think his chemistry with Chuck Swirsky was hilarious. I think, getting to see these guys and hear these guys every day. And I'm sorry, not Chuck Swirsky, Adam Amin, getting to see them just creating a culture of catchphrases. I mean, how many times do we reference something like, give me the hot sauce? You might be in a Mexican restaurant, give me the hot sauce. And you're channeling your inner Stacey. So I think, people bond with that as much as they bond with what he did as a player and how important he was on the court. The fact that he was this larger than life, just gentle giant, sweet, funny guy. I know so many people at CHSN were just devastated. And the fact that it was unexpected, that people didn't see this coming. And when you started seeing people flooding your social media with it, you kept going, no, that no. And the more it got confirmed, the more it just kind of sunk in that, we were losing somebody so important to Chicago broadcasting. But, it was pulling up the broadcast with a friend every night, somebody that would make you laugh. And like I said, there's so many one-liners and even the, drive home safely, beep, beep. Like, how could you not hear that when everyone was paying tribute to him and chuckle a little and smile and just think of, he brought so much joy to Bulls fans on nights the Bulls weren't very good. And that made you tune in. So, I think that's a running theme between Terry and Stacey. They were must-watch TV, must-listen radio. You tuned in because you never knew what they were going to say. And so blessed to have them both in Chicago.
Yeah, both gone way too soon. Now, let's end on a lighter note, Julie. The Blackhawks free agency for the NHL has already started. They made some big moves. They got Bowen Byram from Buffalo. They've signed him to a new long-term extension. They also got Ian Cole, the veteran, who, of course, helped lead the Mammoth to their first playoff appearance in their first year of existence. Also, they got Cole Smith as well. So what do you think about the Blackhawks? Do you expect to at the very least contend for the playoffs next year?
I'm not optimistic. I feel like when you have the 4th pick in the draft and you trade it away, you better be certain you're getting somebody who is going to be a difference maker. But I think it does kind of speak to, rather than risk waiting for potential and guys to develop in the future, you're more serious about getting somebody in who has a proven track record and is able to contribute. And Byram can do that. For the Blackhawks, it's all about putting a team around Connor Bedard. Like, this kid, you're wasting his talent by not being able to put better pieces around him. And so do I think they could make the playoffs? Probably. Do I have a real high upside for him? No. But there's been so much turmoil and uncertainty with that franchise for the last few years. I mean, they became kind of unwatchable. So hopefully some of these guys they're bringing in that are veteran talents and proven winners, hopefully that does give people a reason to watch the Hawks again, because Blackhawk hockey, as we saw when they were winning 3 Stanley Cups, it's fun when everybody's behind it and it's exciting on the ice. And even, there were some good playoff games in the NHL this year. Were the Stanley Cup finals exciting? Maybe not, but
yes.
But I do think that there was a lot going on the last couple of years of just not being able to build any sustained, hey, these are the guys we're building with. These are our Kane and Taves guys. And Bedard is a talent, but he can't do it himself. And so hopefully the guys they brought in are going to prove me wrong and they will do something this year. And if they're even in contention, hopefully they can, maybe do something to bolster the ranks and be a team that's playing deep into June instead of, years like this where we're just sitting there saying, okay, we have nothing to watch for 2 months at the United Center.
Yeah, I was on the record on this show saying, and I said that Kyle Davidson, the GM, was given that contract extension prematurely, and I hope he doesn't act like that. Oh, I can just sit back and relax for the next couple of years and just live off of drafting Connor Bedard. That's not going to fly in this talent, as you mentioned. So we'll see what happens with the Blackhawks starting next year. Jeff Blashill, the first year head coach, did a tremendous job with that team and can keep building and not rest on their most. But we'll see what happens with that. Speaking of happy things that's happening tonight, if you're watching this live, the United States men's soccer team in the FIFA Men's World Cup will take on Bosnia tonight. I believe that's at 8:00 Chicago time on Fox. Julie, have you been keeping up with the World Cup, and what are your thoughts about the USA men's soccer team exceeding all expectations, including yours truly?
Yeah, me too. And the fact that I found myself watching them from the get-go, I didn't expect to watch as much World Cup as I have. I think part of it is, I didn't grow up in a household where we watched soccer all that much. We had like the Chicago Sting, but I didn't grow up a big soccer fan, but I know enough people now who have touted the European soccer experience to me and how much fun it can be. And I think that's what you're seeing in these games. It's partly about the fan interaction and the way they're, coming to these games and bringing their traditions and you've just kind of fallen in love with that. So, but I've also seen some great games that I did not expect to be watching. Somebody last weekend told me, oh, you should put on the Paraguay game against, I don't remember who they were playing that night. But it was like 2 weekends ago. And I turned it on and I was like, okay, this is a good game. And, I say I love pitchers duels in baseball. I can't say I love scoreless games in soccer. I keep waiting for something to happen so everyone goes crazy. But I have seen some of these like 2-0 games that have been fun and exciting. I will tell you the one thing that, again, didn't grow up as a soccer fan. I can't deal with the ascending clock. To me, a sporting event should have a clock that goes down to 0. And when it's going up to 90 and then they tack on all the extra minutes, I'm like, oh, when is this? When is it the final moment? And, we love those buzzer beater shots and those Hail Mary passes and things as the clock runs out. So it does make me a little crazy. But like I said, I've watched more of it than I thought. And we got a ways to go here, assuming that the U.S. can advance after tonight. That's great. Then they move on to the round of 16. We want to see that. But I mean, this whole World Cup was 39 days start to finish. So it's a long haul. And if you're loving it and you're enjoying the games, there's always something on. There's always something fun to watch. And hopefully as we get down the stretch here, there'll be some really great matchups. But there's also been some great sleeper teams, pulling off wins where you didn't expect it. So when you get to the knockout round, it's fun to watch. And I've watched more of it than I thought. And we'll be watching Team USA tonight, especially considering the Cubs and Sox played during the day.
Yeah. So you have no excuse. Of course, that match will play over at Levi's, where the 49ers play. That'll be at 7:00 on the Big Fox Network, also on Fox One on their app. So, anything else, folks, before we enjoy this? Well, hopefully you guys stay indoors unless you actually have to go outside for the long 4th of July weekend. So, anything else, guys, you want to talk about before we disperse?
Sid, I'll defer to you.
I wanted to get Julie's. Yeah, I want to get Julie's thoughts real quick about the NBC taking over Sunday, July 5th, the baseball coverage. I know they have 2 games on the big NBC network. I think it's Mets and Braves, and then, of course, Dodgers and the Padres and that. But all the other games on that Sunday will be on Peacock. Do you think it's a good idea?
Nope. I think we're asking consumers to buy into so many different streaming services. Like, if you want to watch the Cubs on Friday night, you have to have Apple. And if you want to watch this, you have to have Prime. And if you want to watch, whether it's football or baseball or whomever, you're asking people to spend so much money in a crazy tight economy to be able to see their favorite teams. And so, like, I bristle at that. I don't think we have Peacock. I'm pretty sure we don't. But it is hard when you want to watch your team and you can't find them. Even the other night, I don't remember who had the no-hitter. If it was the Red Sox game, somebody had a no-hitter going, and I wanted to turn it on. It was Sunday night. I'm like, where's this game? And I couldn't, my husband said, I think it's on NBC. Oh, okay. As soon as you hear Jason Benetti, you're like, oh, okay. All right. I like this broadcast. But when you're struggling to find where the team is or the game you're looking for, I struggle with that. I feel like because there are so many streaming options for people that it's diluting sports a little bit and excluding people who can't afford to pay for all that and want to watch their teams. I will say this. I was at, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Rookies. It's a chain of sports bars that's in the suburbs. I don't know how far it extends, but I was at the Rookies in Hoffman Estates the other day having lunch with a friend of mine, and the power went out. And I mean, like, the whole place went dark and quiet. And then there was a groan because there were all these people there at the bar watching soccer. They were watching the Japan match. And so you just sort of felt like, okay, these people might not have been able to watch this at home, but they came here to watch it, or maybe they took their lunch break from work to come watch it or whatever. And it went away. And just this palpable, like, oh. So, we've become reliant on being able to watch our sports. And if we can't watch them at our houses, we find a bar where we can watch them. And when it went away, I've never been at a sports bar that lost power and all the TVs went out. So it's kind of crazy. By the time I paid my bill and left, they still did not have electricity. So I don't know if any of those people got to see the end of what was a really good soccer match. But yeah, I do feel like you're asking Americans to already, stretch their dollars further than they want to right now to be able to enjoy the national pastime. And that just sucks.
Yeah, both the Cubs and the Sox games will be on Peacock, as we said earlier. And also, too, unfortunately, the Home Run Derby will be on Netflix this year. So, I mean, it's gotten to the point, and I'm sure ESPN and ABC will have the Super Bowl this year, Super Bowl 61 at SoFi. I think it's going to be on Hulu for the first time, streaming on there. So it'll actually be the first Super Bowl that'll be streaming. So so you wonder if it's going to be a matter of time before it's going to be a stream only. I don't know if it's going to go that far, because I don't think that. I think it's just kind of crazy how, especially in recent years, Sid and I, we talked about it a lot, that Amazon, Peacock, Paramount Plus. I mean, especially with this new TV deal that might come to fruition in a couple of years, we may be seeing some of these NFL games, and the Sunday afternoon NFL afternoon games might be, I don't want to say all go bye-bye, but there might be a lot more games on streaming. So unfortunately, this is going to be the future, sadly.
Right. And you're right. I mean, there were stretches last year where you're looking at, like, okay, the NFL is playing, Thursday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and they're all in different places. And, as much as football fans love, hey, I can watch football this many days a week. I love Thursday night football, but if you can't watch it, you feel like you're shut out. And if it's going to continue to be spread out even further, you're doing such a disservice to the fans. And again, I feel like the sport is popular, maybe, at its peak popularity, and you're going to take that away from people. So that is just kind of the way things are going with everybody streaming now. And, but it's heartbreaking. I know you guys can relate to this. When somebody says, oh, I saw the best TV series, you should watch it. And you say, oh, cool. What's it on? They say, oh, it's on Hulu. It's on blah, blah, blah. Voodoo. It's on Netflix. Like you said, Prime. If you can't access that, you just feel like, wah, wah, like sad trombone. Because, we don't all have the same, hey, I'm going to turn on my TV and I'm going to put on channel 2, 5, or 7. I mean, I'm older than you guys, but I grew up with no remote control and, antennas and whatever. And now kids just cannot wrap their heads around that. So, the more we want to consume, the more options there are, but it can also be limiting. And, oh, God forbid if there was a day where the Super Bowl was not available except on streaming. That can't happen, can it? I mean, we got to have parties and watch with the commercials and everything. And nope, can't happen.
On that note, LaKeena, please take us home.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, executives getting the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Julie, where can the lovely people follow you on social media?
On Twitter, I am at Julia Swieca, but on other platforms, look for at SportsGal324. SportsGal324, that's, I think, Instagram and TikTok and blah, blah, blah. But if you're looking for my sports cooking videos, it's hashtag #PlayByPlate. And I love all the people that have been following and interacting, and they're fun if you haven't seen them. I talk sports at the beginning, and then I do a recipe that ties into whatever my sports theme is that week. They usually run about 10 minutes or so, and you can find them on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and some of them are on YouTube. So if you can't find me on social media as me, look for hashtag #PlayByPlate. You'll find the videos, and they're so much fun. I encourage people to watch them. There have been some spirited ones. There was an Indiana Hoosier Pie when the Bears Stadium issue was hot. There's been a lot of baseball content, just fun stuff. And you get the people who say oh, I was just waiting for you to finish talking sports so I could get to the recipe. And then you get the people who are like, oh, as soon as you stop talking sports, I kind of tuned out the cooking part. That's fine. It's, there's a little for everybody. And I'm just as silly and goofy as I am with you guys on the videos. So sometimes I sing, sometimes I dance, sometimes I pick up my dogs and hold them to the camera. It's crazy. And I appreciate all the interaction from people and people responding and retweeting and reposting. That's how this continues to grow. So, and I appreciate you guys asking me on today. When Sid approached me at the tailgate, I was like, hell yeah, you tell me when and where, I will be there. And then I said to Sid, why doesn't LaKeena ever come to the tailgates? So LaKeena, my girl, we got to get you out to one.
I'll try. Like I said, this is I be telling us, this is a busy time for me, work wise and other stuff too. So yeah, I will try. But like I said, I can't promise it. I will try. Maybe not.
That's all I'm asking, LaKeena.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
Come hang with us. There's free alcohol and there's cool people like me and Sid hanging out there with other cool people. And my husband, the Cubs fan, has gone to a couple tailgates this year. So Sox fans are not as scary as people think. We're very all inclusive unless it's the Cubs Sox series, and even then we let them hang at our tailgate. So gotta see you there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And quickly, LaKeena, I know you got close up. Quickly, the 2 times that Julie and her husband showed up this year, he did not wear any Cubs gear, so I'm thankful for that.
Smart man.
I think Julie has done some magic on her husband. Did not wear any Cubs gear to Sox Park unless they play the Cubs. So he's good in my book.
You just didn't notice that one of his hats had like a little cub playing like a Led Zeppelin guitar, but it was actually a riff on a Cubs logo. So he's subtle about it now. He's not as provocative, like, in your face Sox fans. So he's gotten a little bit better.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I was like very subtle. I gotta be very subtle now. Of course, you can catch Second City Sports anytime, anywhere. Of course, with the long holiday weekend coming up, we won't be on Friday, so you can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas. If you miss when we do our NFL picks, also our interview with Julie for the whole hour today, you can catch up. Take this time in the long holiday break to catch up. Anytime, anywhere on the Sports Oils Facebook and YouTube channels, easy for me to say. And so it's all right there for you. It's free, it's easy. Also, the Sports Oils Chicago app.
And we will provide.
All right, so enjoy this. Well, stay cool, I guess, because it's going to be still going to be hot these next couple of days. And also it's going to be, I guess, going to be rainy too in the 4th of July here in Illinois. So if you are going to go out, stay cool, stay dry, be safe. Don't play with firecrackers, folks. So no, that's not funny, but I'm just saying, this is our PSA. No, stay safe with the firecrackers, folks. So for Sid and Julie, I'm LaKeena with Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Have a happy and safe 4th of July weekend, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
Thanks, guys.
Go Sox! Holla!